Chapter 1. The rhythmic rumble of the diesel engine was a drone Marcus usually found comforting, a constant companion through countless miles. Tonight, however, it felt like a monotonous heartbeat counting down to something. He'd been pushing the rig hard, the exhaustion a persistent itch beneath his skin, his eyes gritty from the relentless glare of the highway. Then, the metallic voice from his CB radio shattered the quiet, warning of a multi-vehicle pileup ahead, a complete shutdown of I-90. A detour was necessary, a seldom-used service road known only to old-timers and those truly desperate to make time. Marcus, weary and behind schedule, fell into the latter category. The asphalt quickly deteriorated as he veered off the main artery, the smooth hum replaced by a jarring thrumming as his heavy wheels found crumbling edges and patched-over potholes. The sickly half-moon, a bruised fingernail against the bruised indigo sky, offered little illumination, casting long, wavering shadows from the skeletal trees that clawed at the roadside. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else he couldn't quite place, decay, perhaps, or merely the phantom smell of forgotten things. Then it appeared, looming out of the gloom like a broken monument to failed dreams, an abandoned motel and diner complex. Weeds choked the cracked asphalt of its parking lot, their tendrils reaching up as if to drag the very buildings down. The motel's sign, a rusted skeleton of what was once vibrant neon, sagged precariously, its painted letters flaking away like old skin. Windows, dark and vacant, stared out like hollow eyes, and the diner's door hung ajar, a gaping maw into absolute darkness. An immediate, visceral dread coiled in Marcus's gut, a cold, irrational certainty that this place was wrong, deeply and fundamentally wrong. He pressed the accelerator, eager to put the ruin behind him. Barely a mile down the road, the silence in his cab, which had felt oppressive, was suddenly broken. His CB radio, previously a source of comfort, crackled to life with a burst of static, then a faint, disembodied whisper. It was almost too low to discern, a breathy moan that seemed to emanate from the very air, not the speaker. Marcus leaned closer, straining to hear. The static pulsed, and then, distinct, chillingly clear, a chorus of faint pleas emerged, entangled with desperate, fragmented words. "Help, trap, please." The voices were weak, ethereal, like ghosts caught in the radio waves, their suffering echoing from somewhere unseen, somewhere he had just passed. A shiver, colder than the night air, traced a path down his spine. Chapter 2. The engine sputtered once, a harsh cough that shuddered through the cab, then fell utterly silent. Marcus slammed the heel of his hand against the dash, twisting the key again and again, but the 18-wheeler, his reliable beast, was dead. No warning, no sputtering demise, just an abrupt, profound stillness. The sudden quiet was more alarming than any noise, leaving him suspended in a vacuum of his own making, miles from anywhere. He fumbled for his phone, already knowing the futile outcome. The screen glowed, mocking him with its empty bars, a stark no service plastered across the top. He was truly alone. The thought of turning back to that desolate complex made his stomach clench, a cold knot of dread tightening with every beat of his heart. Every instinct screamed to stay put, to wait for dawn, for a miracle, for anything but the grim necessity of retracing his steps. But what choice did he have? The road stretched empty behind and before him, swallowed by the darkness, the sickly half-moon offering only the barest guidance. With a grimace, he grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight, its beam a paltry defiance against the encroaching gloom, and began the long, unwelcome walk. As the twisted, skeletal sign of the motel slowly materialized from the oppressive darkness, a shadow detached itself from the deeper gloom between the motel office and the first row of rooms. It was impossibly tall, a gaunt, spindly silhouette against the faint moonlight, its limbs stretched and attenuated, moving with an unnatural, jerking grace. It didn't walk so much as slink, a fluid, disturbing motion like a spider unfolding itself, vanishing behind the next building with an unsettling ease that chilled Marcus to the bone. Not an animal, not a man, something else entirely. His breath hitched, and he flattened himself against the cold metal of his trailer, waiting, listening, until the silence once again descended, thicker and more menacing than before. He forced himself forward, drawn by a morbid curiosity and the illogical hope of a landline. The diner's hanging door creaked open under his tentative push, the sound echoing in the oppressive silence. Inside, the air was thick with dust, the cloying smell of stagnant grease, and something else, a faint metallic tang that prickled at his nostrils. Moonlight filtered through grimy windows, revealing overturned chairs, shattered crockery, and decades of accumulated grime. But amidst the ruin, something was distinctly, sickeningly off. A single work boot caked with fresh, damp mud lay overturned by a booth, too recent to be part of the general decay. And on the counter where sugar dispensers once stood, a dark smear not quite dried stained the faded formica. It glistened faintly under his flashlight, too red, too thick to be old oil. A primal fear, cold and sharp, pierced through his weariness. This place wasn't just abandoned. It was a hunting ground. Chapter 3. The metallic tang in the air grew stronger, mingling with the heavy scent of rot as Marcus pushed deeper into the abandoned complex. He found himself inexplicably drawn, not by hope anymore, but by a chilling, rhythmic clang of metal that echoed faintly from somewhere beyond the diner, a sound too deliberate to be the wind. It was a slow, uneven percussion, like a blacksmith at a dying forge, pulling him past the overturned booths and the unsettling smear on the counter. Outside the diner's back door, the ground was churned earth, still damp despite the lack of recent rain. Here, the evidence was undeniable. A scattering of personal effects lay strewn like discarded offerings. A faded trucker's wallet, its contents emptied. A child's worn plastic toy, half buried in the mud. A woman's ID card, her smiling face staring up at the sickly moon. Each item a silent testament to a life abruptly ended, a journey tragically interrupted. The bloodstains here were not smears but dark, almost black splotches soaking into the earth, too numerous, too widespread. His flashlight beam wavered, revealing something more horrific. Tucked behind what must have been an old laundry shed, slumped against the peeling paint, were several figures. Not fully skeletons nor fresh corpses. They were desiccated, mummified husks, their skin pulled taut over bone, mouths agape in silent screams. A shriveled hand, its skin like parchment, still clutched a wedding ring, while nearby a child's faded teddy bear lay slumped, a dark, petrified smear where its stuffing should have been. The gaunt figure he'd seen before was a shepherd, a lure for something far more ancient, far more monstrous. The rhythmic clang grew louder, more insistent, leading him past the motel rooms, their doors either hanging ajar or ripped from their frames. A trail of discarded, desecrated belongings, a torn shirt, a broken watch, a single muddy boot pointed towards a dilapidated structure, barely visible behind the main motel building. It was a root cellar, its wooden doors half-rotted, one of them hanging askew on a single groaning hinge. The faint metallic clang now pulsed from within, a morbid heartbeat drawing him to the threshold. He pushed the door inward, plunging into an immediate suffocating darkness that swallowed his flashlight's beam. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of death and decay, a smell so profound it felt like a physical pressure. As his eyes adjusted and the light pierced the gloom, he saw it. The floor was not dirt, but a grotesque mosaic of bleached bones, femurs, ribcages, shattered skulls, interlocking like some macabre puzzle. This was the charnel den, the My Leader's lair, a repository of shattered dreams and the very substance of terror. A single, dull iron hook, still swaying slightly, clanged against a wall, explaining the sound that had led him here. Chapter 4. The air, thick with the scent of decay, solidified into a chill that crept into Marcus's bones. He stood amidst the macabre tapestry of shattered lives, his flashlight beam trembling, fixed on the swaying iron hook. The silence that followed the clang was a heavy living thing, pressing in from all sides. A skeletal shudder ran through the pile of bones at the far end of the cellar, then a shift, a groan of ancient wood and dried cartilage. From the deepest shadows it emerged, not the gaunt figure he'd seen earlier, but its terrible architect. It was a monstrous, skeletal beast, impossibly tall, its limbs like desiccated tree branches, jointed at grotesque angles, ending in clawed hands that scraped against the dirt floor with a sound like dying whispers. Its skull was long and tapered, its eye sockets hollow pits that seemed to drink the light, and its mouth was a permanent, wide-open rictus, filled with rows of needle-sharp, gnashing teeth, stained brown with ancient blood. Its form was a grotesque living sculpture of highway despair, stretched and starved, a predator born of forgotten roads and lost souls. Marcus's breath hitched, a strangled gasp caught in his throat. This was the My Leader. His mind screamed, but his truck driver's pragmatism, honed by years of roadside emergencies, kicked in. His hand instinctively found the heavy wrench he'd brought from his toolbox, a solid weight in his trembling grip. The creature moved, a blur of elongated limbs, surprisingly fast for its skeletal frame. It lunged, a guttural shriek tearing from its throat, smelling of dust and dried blood. He ducked, the stench of its breath washing over him, a clawed hand raking the air where his head had been. Bones crunched under his boots as he pivoted, swinging the wrench with all his might. The metal connected with a sickening thud against one of its spindly ribs, a sharp crack echoing in the confined space. The My Leader recoiled, a high-pitched, rasping cry erupting from its maw, more animal than anything human. It was wounded. The creature staggered, its dark eyes burning with malevolent fury. This was his chance. Marcus didn't hesitate, scrambling back, slipping on femurs and fragmented skulls, pushing through the rotten door he'd entered. The monstrous cries of the My Leader, now laced with pain and rage, followed him, guttural and chilling, closer than he dared to imagine, as he burst back into the oppressive gloom of the abandoned motel. Chapter 5. Marcus burst into the motel lobby, the air thick with dust and decay. The My Leader's guttural cries ripped through the darkness behind him, closer, gaining. He didn't look back, his lungs burning, legs pumping over splintered floorboards and shattered glass. Each step was a frantic prayer, a desperate gamble against the encroaching horror. He stumbled through the reception area, past the overturned desk, towards the faint promise of the moonlit parking lot. His 18-wheeler loomed like a metal behemoth, a beacon of hope. He fumbled for the door handle, muscles screaming, his hand slipping on the cold steel. It opened with a groan. He hauled himself into the cab, slamming the door shut, the flimsy barrier feeling utterly inadequate. His fingers, numb with terror, scrabbled for the ignition, the key a cold, alien object in his trembling grasp. He twisted it once, twice. The engine sputtered, then coughed, a desperate, hesitant sound. A colossal shadow fell over the windshield. The My Leader lunged from the gloom, its skeletal form impossibly vast, claws scraping against the metal of the truck's hood with a chilling shriek. Its hollow eyes bored into him, a silent promise of gruesome death. The engine roared to life with a final, desperate turn of the key. Marcus slammed the transmission into gear, the tires spitting gravel as he floored the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, throwing the creature back, its elongated limbs flailing against the sudden momentum. He didn't look in the rearview mirror, couldn't bear to. The image of those hollow eyes, the gnashing teeth, was already seared into his mind. He pushed the rig past its limits, the desolate highway blurring into a tunnel of oppressive darkness. The My Leader was gone, swallowed by the night, but its presence remained, an invisible weight pressing down on the road, on him. Marcus drove until dawn, the first weak rays of sunlight doing little to dispel the profound chill that had settled in his bones. He was alive, yes, but irrevocably changed. The highway, once his sanctuary, now felt like a living entity, its asphalt veins pumping with malevolent intent. Every shadow held a potential lunge, every creak of the truck a whisper of skeletal limbs. He would reroute always. That cursed stretch of road, the My Leader's domain, would never again feel the weight of his wheels. He knew it still lurked there, a hungry, patient sentinel, waiting for the next weary soul to take the shortcut home.